So rather than trying to explain what change the world means in words, the cast and crew of All Elite Wrestling will finally be able to show you just how we will
Welcome
change
All
the world.
Elite Wrestling fans to the first ever All Elite Wrestling podcast. I am your host, Andrew Kazir, joined with my friend AJ. AJ, tell the fans a little bit about yourself before we start our podcast.
Hey, I'm AJ Fitzgerald. I'm a writer, filmmaker, right now a video artist, which is pretty cool, and overall a big wrestling fan.
I'm Andrew Kazir. I've been going to school to do some broadcasting. I'm also a big wrestling fan, been watching wrestling since I was a kid. Sort of got out of it for a little while there, but with the new All Elite Wrestling company, I've gotten more into it. I've actually been paying attention to Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and all of them through New Japan and stuff like that. That's helped keep me interested. And then with this new company, myself and AJ have wanted to get together and create a podcast for a while and go over some of the things going on within the company. So this is where we hope to start with that.
Yeah, I think and it's good because like I've been out of the loop with wrestling for a while. Like I'm a big wrestling fan, but like this was the only year, like 2018 was the only year where I really didn't follow anything. So like I only just watched All In and I'm already like, oh, this shit's crazy. I should have been watching like 6 months ago or 5 months ago, whenever it was. But holy shit, there's a lot here.
It was the hype for All In that sort of kept me interested in wrestling. I mean, every year I felt it's sort of started to die off for me a little bit. The desire to check out and to see the Raw results, to watch the highlights, stuff like that. It just hasn't been exciting to me.
Yeah, it wasn't even like I'm boycotting WWE. It's just like I forgot to watch it.
Right.
It's just like you lose interest after a while. But this now I'm like I'm back in. I'm all in. Because I just watched All In and like, damn, like how many people was that? 10,000 they said.
Yeah, they did a 10,000 seat arena. It was, of course, brought upon by Dave. That's the funny thing is Dave Meltzer sort of spawned all of this just with a joking bet he made with the Young Bucks on Twitter. And it was something that no one really thought was ever going to come to fruition. And all of a sudden, there they are with All In, 10,000 people filling that arena. It's crazy to look at it.
Yeah, and I mean I looked up the MGM Grand because I was wondering like how many does that seat? And 17,000. And they sold out in 4 minutes.
It's insane, man.
17,000 seats, 4 minutes. That's like they could have booked, I think, like at least a 30,000 arena and they would have sold it out.
With the excitement coming off of All In and all that, I mean, after All In, they weren't even necessarily confirmed to start their own company. There was a potential of them going to WWE. There was the potential of them staying with New Japan and in Ring of Honor and not doing their own thing. There were rumors of this company, but there was not even anything guaranteed going into All In, and all of those fans supporting that and being there for that, filling that arena is what made this all possible.
Yeah. I mean, God, 10,000 people for an indie show. I mean, it's not an indie show anymore, but I mean, at the time it was, right? Like they didn't have Khan backing them at that point, did they?
No, it was essentially this show that encouraged Khan to back them and showed Khan this company could be successful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's cool. I like that would be the last person I would expect, like a football guy, to be like, I would have thought like it would have been Mark Cuban or somebody who's like worked in New Japan already, like if it was going to be a billionaire. So it's kind of cool that it's somebody who I absolutely do not know at all. Just some secret billionaire. I know like any football or NFL fan obviously know who this is. I don't. But
the crazy thing about it all is it screams like fantasy booking, the way everything has come together over the last 2.5 years of not even just All Elite Wrestling, but some of when WWE took Shinsuke Nakamura, when they took AJ Styles, when they got all of those wrestlers, and then just all of the things that have happened since then, Ronda Rousey joining the WWE, and then this new company getting backed by a millionaire. It's literally like fantasy booking, and it's crazy to see.
And I mean, like fantasy booking, just like Omega versus Jericho. Like if you had told me that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have been like, fuck you. No, that's not gonna happen. And like this is gonna be what, their third match, fourth? I don't know. I wasn't really watching New Japan, but they must have wrestled there. But Omega and Jericho, like, like the blonde Canada boys are just going at it in this blood feud, because that's the main thing I watched from the press conference was Omega and just Jericho getting in his face and the fedora, which I thought was hilarious because I'm guarantee you he wore that fedora just because people would make fun of him for it.
Right. And before we jump too far ahead, let's just first talk about some of the initial AEW signings, some of the people that they announced at the first press conference. That was sort of the big hurrah for everybody. They managed to throw a press conference that happened to be in the same town as SmackDown that night, so they were able to draw a big crowd of fans to that, and they were at the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium, so they had everything they needed as far as presentation went.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, they were able to announce pretty much a good amount of wrestlers that some were expected, some were unexpected. The Chris Jericho announcement that they had, that was a huge announcement, I feel
Oh yeah.
like.
Didn't he
Joey
say?
Janela was an interesting announcement.
I was gonna say, didn't Jericho say it was like the most money he's ever been offered?
Yeah, I believe he said something like that. Jericho got a ton of money. And that's the thing that some of the information that's come out recently has been that a lot of these younger guys have even gotten big money thrown at them just to secure them for a couple of years as well. So AEW isn't playing any games as far as contracting their talent. They want to secure most of the guys that they see they have a future with. It's also nice to see that they're willing to work with the other independent companies as well, though. Like Joey Janela, MJF, they're both still going to do work with MLW.
Hmm. That because that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, how do these contracts work? Because like I know a lot of these guys rely on going town to town to make their money and just selling merch at gimmick tables. And like obviously the Young Bucks of all people know that. So are like some of these contracts pretty fluid? Like are they kind of open ended, but they just have to like is like kind of like those ROH contracts?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, Joey Janela and MJF, they'll still be able to appear for MLW, which is a company that does have TV. So it's really
Mm.
interesting. Honestly, it's like a new territory ways where
It is.
they're allowing wrestlers to appear on other television, even though it's all sort of smaller broadcasted television. And
Yeah.
that could all change, I think, as AEW gets larger.
Yeah.
But I think they also wanted to have some of these talent in at the beginning. And they also have SEMA, and he's someone
Yeah.
he obviously won't be an exclusive contracted guy. They're
Yeah.
just doing a lot of work with other companies and stuff like
And
that.
they're playing it really, really smart because I mean we've seen it with Lucha Underground where I feel like Lucha Underground was the last bastion of trying to do wrestling the old way of we'll get it on TV, we'll get a good story, we'll get good matches and people will like it. As much as that did work, like it didn't work enough. And I feel like the Young Bucks specifically are like really being tactical about this. We're going to do pay-per-view events. We're going to do big events. We're going to hype them up. We're going to hype them up on the internet. We're going to get a big following. And that's how you sell tickets in 4 minutes.
Right. And then outside of the smaller guys that I had, and well, not the smaller guys, but the lower name guys announced, they obviously signed Cody, the Bucks, and Adam Page are all signed, and their contracts are a little bit different from the Joey Janela and MJF's. Cody and the Bucks have executive vice president roles, which means each one of them is going to get some sort of health insurance, health coverage
That's
for
awesome.
them. They also offer, it's basically like WWE offers, if you're injured in their ring, they're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And then there's talk of in the future, if the company becomes lucrative, obviously getting each of the wrestlers health insurance. But that's all, Cody Rhodes mentioned that that's all something that's going to have to come down the road. It's obviously not something that's financially viable from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then Adam Page, I believe he was an exclusive contracted guy. So there's some guys who they're just offering big money to, which
Yeah.
they had to have, because Adam Page and the Bucks were offered huge money to go to the WWE, offered huge opportunities just to go there and not have to do the work that comes with laying the foundation for a company. So
Like one thing that's been on my mind is just like, did they outbid WWE? Because I think Kenny Omega would have gone to AEW no matter what. But I know like he had, or at least I read somewhere that he had a lot of money offered to him from WWE, like a lot of fucking money. And so I in my mind I'm like, well, they have a billionaire investing in them. Like how much? Like you got to imagine that they're paying these guys really well because like that's going to be really important, especially in the beginning, that you have not only the fans into this, but the wrestlers in the wrestling community really wanting to be in AEW because they're like, oh, I'll get treated better here. Like, this is a good platform for me.
I think that's a big part of it is the platform as well as maybe there might not be necessarily matching WWE's money, but they're coming close to enough
Hmm.
to it and offering the opportunity to work other companies if you're a lower name superstar and find other ways to have an income coming to you. So
Yeah.
I think it's just the opportunity and the potential ways to have an income outside of just wrestling for the company that is attractive for some of these independent guys.
Yeah, and I mean, it's safer, like, at the end of the day, like, even because, like, that's the same reason people would sign with TNA is maybe I don't love TNA, but it's a good spot for me. I have somebody where, again, like what you said, if I get hurt in the ring, they're gonna help me. Like, if you go to, like, Missouri Championship Wrestling, like, they're not gonna give a fuck if you break your arm in their ring. And, like, a lot of these guys are still working. And I remember when I lived in West Virginia, it was 20 people, and, like, Sammy Callahan and Dan Severn wrestled on that show in West Virginia in front of 20 people, and they went hard. And I'm like, why? Like, I was happy I was there, but it's like, why? You don't have to. It's West Virginia. Nobody's even going to see this.
And I think the relationship you made sort of to Impact is interesting because as it stands right now, All Elite does have that alternative perspective to it as
Hmm.
far as not having to go to WWE, but they're also not necessarily just snatching up any wrestlers and
Yeah.
giving them money just to work a lighter schedule. I mean, Booker T had mentioned it on his podcast, I believe, that he said that when he went to Impact, it was essentially like a vacation. You go there, you collect your check, you do your
Yeah.
job, and you leave, and it's not a whole lot expected of you. Whereas with this company, they're going to expect you to bust your ass and earn that paycheck, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I think All Elite is fortunate with the timing too. I mean, Impact
Yeah.
they signed up guys that were just sort of available for them at the time. It's not like they were ignoring super talented middle name guys. I mean, Neville's
Yeah.
a super talented guy who can be signed right now. If a guy like Neville would have been available to TNA back then, they would have signed him.
And you had
But they
people
probably
turning
wouldn't
down
have
TNA, like Brian
floundered
Danielson.
that opportunity, I feel like. But
He turned him down, like, for a long time. Samoa Joe turned TNA down at first, too. And also, that's kind of on that same topic. Like, I wonder how many, because I feel like the best indie guys are not going to want to turn AEW down. Like, I feel like Daniel Bryan and like other people were like turning TNA down because they don't want to be TNA guys. But I don't think anybody's going to feel like they'll have a stigma if they're an AEW guy because it feels so much like an indie promotion just pumped up.
yeah, and as it stands, it's almost that's the cool place to be.
Yeah.
They've got the opportunity, they've got money, they've got a chance, and it's a real chance to be a cool place to be. I think that's why someone like Adam Page decided to go there
Hmm.
because it looks like he's got an opportunity to be placed as one of the main guys in a brand new company, one of
Yeah,
the
I
top.
fucking hope so.
He's got looks like it's going to be a championship match, maybe with Neville at the pay-per-view. So
Absolutely. That would be rad. Yeah, yeah, because I paused it right before we started this, but Neville was interrupting Page on his iPhone. He's talking to Adam Page on my TV right now, and so that's gonna be sick. And I also want to see like what they do with Janela, because I know Janela's kind of like to you and me, we both love Joey Janela, but I'm sure like the majority of people probably don't know Joey Janela, and I'm really excited to see how they use him.
the exciting thing about that is he's gonna be super fresh to a lot of fans
Hmm.
too because he's even to the indie fans because he's been injured for a while. He's gonna be he's been on the shelf for so long that once he comes back, it's gonna be a big exciting thing. I don't even
Yeah.
think he'll be at Double or Nothing because of his injury. Think he's still got a little ways to go. But them announcing that signing and then being able to build up his return
Hmm.
is something that will be really good for him. I think in general, I think that will make him sort of debut as something like a star.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to see Paige and Janela go at it again after watching that at All In. Like, cause wow, they tore each other apart. Like it wasn't like the best match, but it was a good match, and they were fucking each other up. Like they were not pulling punches there. And that, oh god, the burning hammer on the ladder, that was sick. That was nasty.
Yeah, that was a hell of a match. I think those two could have a great match. I think I think Janela, given the right opponents, can have some really great matches. I also think that Janela is someone that sort of has like a peak as well. I don't think he's someone that necessarily would be approached by the WWE just
Mhm.
because of that fact as well. I think he's good for what he is, but I don't. He's not like the greatest technically gifted athlete in the world.
Kind of like the Jimmy Jacobs syndrome.
Exactly. And now let's go over some of the signings that were announced at the Double or Nothing ticket signing event. One of the first ones, actually the first one, was Sonny Kiss, who wrestled in Lucha Underground as Exolicious. I honestly have no idea who this is,
Yes.
but it's someone who catches your eye from the second you see
Yeah.
him.
He came out and I was like, I already like him because I just saw it and just, I mean, it's definitely like this flamboyant character, but it feels like that's just his personality also, which I kind of love. I don't know. I like this dude. I think it's going to be fun to watch him, or at least like just I'd give him a mic because I feel like I'm going to like his promos more than his matches.
And it'll be something. It's good for AEW. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
it's good that this gimmick is in AEW, I should
Yeah.
say, because we saw what happened with a gimmick like this with Orlando Jordan and Impact, and that didn't work out. I'm not. I mean, they've done some stuff like this in the WWE with flamboyant characters. I
They
guess you have
never
the
do it
Velveteen
quite well.
Dream, who's really great,
Yeah,
but
yeah. But like I think the bad ones stand out way more in WWE because of how bad they are.
I guess that could be a difficult thing for Sonny Kiss now that I think about it, just having to be that flamboyant character, also being African American. I mean, at best, he's going to be compared to the Velveteen Dream.
It would be cool if they just booked him like a badass, though.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of potential with it, but like I said, it'll be tough. It'll be tough with Dream being such a popular character to
You're
internet
right.
wrestling fans and being flamboyant. I think that Sonny Kiss is a good add to the roster, and I think it's interesting the way they announced it with Brandy Rhodes signing him. She's obviously the
Hmm.
head of the women's division for AEW, so
Chief
there's a
Brandy
little
Officer.
interesting spin on it.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, to your point, like I don't think I've seen Velveteen Dream, but I know who Velveteen Dream is because like I said, I haven't watched in about a year. Mostly, I haven't watched WWE, but like I've still heard about Velveteen Dream to the point where like, okay, I gotta look him up. And you're right, like that he's not going to be able to escape that, but like. There's nothing new under the sun, and what comes down to is who does it the best. So I don't know. Maybe he'll be way better. He definitely has a platform where he can be more creative than Velveteen Dream.
Definitely. At least once Velveteen Dream gets called up, I feel like at that point, Sonny Kiss will have the ability to sort of overtake that
Yeah.
and be the better of the characters, because at that point, Sonny Kiss will be way more free with it, and Velveteen Dream will sort of be locked down with the WWE rules and whatnot.
So who's our next boy?
Next up is, well, two boys actually, Chucky T and Trent.
Oh boy.
There were some rumors that they were going to be announced at this event. Chucky T and Trent had actually been verbally agreed to a contract with New Japan. Trent was supposed
Oh.
to stay with them throughout the rest of the year at least.
Oh yeah.
But then he went back on his word, signed a deal with All Elite, and that's where we're at.
Oh, are they? I hope they're not pissed about that because I know Trent was in there for a while.
I think Trent was positioned to be like the next top Gaijin.
He's won the tag titles too, right? The junior tag titles. I mean.
Yeah, and then well, and I don't really blame Trent either because they'd split him
No.
up from Rocky. They had him do the announcement that he was moving up to heavyweight,
Oh yeah.
and then they didn't really do anything with him throughout the year.
Yeah, I do remember him like that the heavyweight stuff.
And that was the interesting thing about this whole Trent thing, is him leaving New Japan after that. Roppongi Vice split up, getting paired back up with Chucky T. Well, not paired back up, Chucky T being introduced to New Japan and working with Trent. I think that would have been frustrating for Trent to be put back into that tag team position after being elevated as a singles guy. But maybe not. I mean, him and Chucky are still both going to All Elite together, so maybe it was just a matter of being able to be based in America.
That's there's always that, because I mean, as cool as it is to like wrestle in Japan, I'm sure, like, because if you're like a wrestler and you're an indie wrestler and you get to be in New Japan, that's cool. But I'm sure that wears off like after a year or so, where you're like, I want to go home.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the guy too. Like someone like Kenny Omega, sure, he could stay over there for years at a time. But I think someone like Trent, the Dude Buster, he doesn't want to stay in Japan for that long. He's probably not having the best time.
Yeah.
Another guy announced at the Double or Nothing ticket signing event is the AAA Cruiserweight champion Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
He's someone whose name I've heard but I haven't really seen a lot of.
I don't know nothing about Sammy Guevara, but I'm
I know he's a
excited to see him.
Texas-based guy. He's been rising up through the indie ranks in Texas. He's got a couple looks on PWG and things like that. So he's a high flyer, flippy guy.
I kind of love how they're going after names where, like, even if you're following indie wrestling, you might not know who this is. Because there are so many local, regional promotions where you'll find clearly there's one back to West Virginia indies. There were guys where, like, I could clearly tell out of, like, the whatever 20, 30 person roster, this one guy stands out because everybody else is so much worse and he makes them look worse when he wrestles. Jason Kincaid, I'm glad whenever I get to see him now because, like, he was just a West Virginia dude and now I see him on real shows like WWN shows, and that's cool. And I hope they like kind of go in that route of getting, obviously I want them to get the big names, but I want them to get really unknown people too and really make their mark that way of like, hey, these guys are fucking awesome and we're gonna get them over.
And it definitely helps. Like Guevara comes in already as a champion in another promotion, so he's
Yeah.
elevated by that a little
I mean,
bit.
obviously AAA is a big promotion. I'm ignorant, but shit.
No, you're not wrong though. I mean, it's not like everybody's paying attention to AAA. Not everybody's paying attention to Lucha Underground. Not everybody's paying attention to New Japan. So I mean, they're bringing in guys who are a big deal in all of these companies, and
Yeah.
it's almost like a reverse psychology of how the
It is.
how the old days were, where they would bring in like one guy at a time, one really good
Yeah.
guy into each territory and have him stay for like 6 months at a time. Instead, they're bringing like one really good guy from each territory and having them
Mhm.
presented on a major level.
Which is kind of genius. Like it's like exactly what you said. It's totally opposite, and it works really well because I just want to see all these cool like people from different areas collide. Like you said, it's fantasy booking, and it's just perfect. I don't know. I
It's
feel
like
like I'm
collaboration through wrestling. Like, and then another announcement they made was Aja Kong.
yeah.
Someone I'm not super familiar with, but the fans and apparently you are also familiar with.
Well, the thing is, like, that surprised me because, like, one, yeah, like, I've watched her matches, like, with Manami Toyota, and she's amazing. Like, she's better than a lot of dudes. Like, if you're not familiar with, like, Joshi wrestling or Joshi, it's intense. Like she's one of the most influential wrestlers like in Japan, not like women wrestlers, just wrestlers. And she was in WWE, like she was all over the place for a while. And I'm just surprised because she's kind of older now. Like she's been wrestling a long time. She's got to be like 50. And that
And so, like,
yeah.
Joshi, you're saying is like strong style, I guess, for
It's
like
kind of
women.
yeah, like it's just a lot more like and not even strong style, just women wrestling the same way you would see anybody wrestle,
Right.
which was obviously a stark comparison from 90s to 2000s WWE when you're seeing girls pulling their hair and whatnot. It's a lot different now, but in comparison, Aja Kong kicked in the door, like especially even in Japan, like she was one of the main players there. So that's kind of crazy. And I don't know. There's no way they're going to make her work as much as the younger people, I would hope, because 50 years, I think she's got to be at least 50.
It says right here that she's actually 48, but for 48, she still looks like a badass. Looking at this picture.
48. Okay. And that also made me think, oh shit, are they going to bring an Awesome Kong? Are they going to get her back into wrestling? Because
That would be dope. I think I think with Aja Kong being so old, I think that they need to bring in another like
yeah,
strong monster type female character. I think that's one of the best characters in women's wrestling. I don't think WWE tries to do it with Nia Jax. I don't really think she's the best with it, but I think when Awesome Kong was doing it and things like that, that's some of the best wrestling you could see because it's just overcoming odds over and over.
Like even China, like China was awesome. Like, retrospect, whatever, but at the time, China was fucking awesome. Like that was just cool. Beth Phoenix was fucking awesome. you're totally right. Like it's always because at any time a big promotion is like, hey, they're just as good. It's cool because like even as a kid, it always boggled my mind. Well, if Rey Mysterio can beat the Big Show, why can't Trish Stratus wrestle men? Like, is like it's clearly not a size thing. So I really hope we get because I saw in the over the budget battle royal. I don't know who she was, but there was a girl in there and she was kicking ass and she made it to the final three. And so that kind of gives me hope that like Aja Kong isn't just gonna wrestle the girls because Aja Kong can wrestle dudes no problem.
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. I also think that with the culture and America and the way things work
Yeah.
out, I think that sponsors could put a halt on that. I think WWE had advertised doing a matchup potentially with Dean Ambrose and Nia Jax in the next couple months that they had to cancel just because a sponsor had said, hey, if you do that, we're pulling out. And I think that'll be the biggest thing for companies on a large scale. I think on a small scale, you see companies do it and it's super popular.
Like
Just because
Chikara.
on YouTube in general, any intergender match generally gets a ton of hits. It's crazy when you look at the statistics
Is that
for it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but
no biz?
it gets a lot of hits. So it's always a possibility. I think that why not? I mean,
Yeah.
professional wrestling isn't even, it's all scripted. So at the end of the day, like then if a woman is agreeing to these matchups and things, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's David versus Goliath. It's the perfect place to do David versus Goliath. So why not do it? I mean, you and me, we've watched a lot of like intergender matches with Chikara and PWG and stuff where it's obvious that the gender makes no difference because at the end of the day, wrestling's a performance art. And so as long as you're good at that performance art, you're going to be putting on a good show.
Exactly. And then another major announcement at the Double or Nothing ticket signing event was the announcement of the Lucha Brothers signing with All Elite. I think it's not necessarily an exclusive thing, sort of like Joey Janela and MJF. They can work throughout the United States with like MLW and things like that.
Mm.
And then they attack the Young Bucks at the event, so that obviously sets the stage for that match,
Oh
which
shit.
is an exciting match for sure, but
Oh
it's a
god, yeah.
match that's been seen on Independence throughout the years. So it's not like it's a dream match for the first time ever, but it's definitely a dope match that I think the fans will get to see at that event.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's kind of like I because I didn't know that they'd done it a bunch, but I mean, doing a match a bunch is not a problem. Like Joe versus Punk, I don't know how many times they did that match because the first one was so good, but it never got old. Nobody was like, Joe versus Punk again. Nah, I don't want to see that. Like, I'm totally happy to watch the Bucks and just Ray Phoenix in general. Damn, he's so cool. He's just like like I know they were saying it on the commentary just to hype him up, but they were talking about how he's like Rey Mysterio for this era, and he kind of is. He kind of is because he has that same look, he has the same vibe, and he's also doing shit that nobody else can do. Which obviously Rey Mysterio in 1998 has it's insane how much the gap has changed with cruiserweights and how crazy it got. But in 1998, Rey Mysterio was the guy who was doing the craziest shit. It was like, oh my god, I didn't even know that was physically possible. And so you get to see that with people with like Ray Phoenix, and damn, that match was so good. And you could tell they had to hurry because they were running out of time, and I wish they didn't. I wish I could like I wish that match could go had gone like another 10 minutes because it was so fun. And when they tagged in Rey Mysterio and Coda got in and every fan just stood up out of their chair, I was like, ah.
It's an intense match to watch, knowing that they were short on time, though, because you're
Yeah.
just like, shit, they got to get their stuff in, and you can. At one point, I think you could hear them like telling them to go home and shit. So
Yeah.
it was an exciting thing. And don't get me wrong, like when I say they've done that match a bunch of times, it's probably like 5 times. So it's
That's
not
a
like
lot.
it's like a ton, but
It's a ton for
it's
wrestling.
nice to build off of that last match at All In. It's maybe not Pentagon in there from that last match, but Phoenix going back against the Young Bucks and
Mhm.
stuff builds off of that. So,
And just
and then the
having
last
Penta.
announcement, oh yeah, and Pentagon's a huge signing. I feel like I think both of the Lucha Brothers were approached by WWE. They didn't go there. That's the huge thing about a lot of these signings is a lot of these guys, they were guys that WWE wanted and didn't get.
I think WWE
And
would have a hard time on their end working with Pentagon just because he's Pentagon, he's doing all the satanic like gimmicky shit, and like their sponsors would be like, hey, maybe change his name.
I think it would suck if he was
It would
in
suck. It
WWE.
would
So
suck so bad.
that's easily the best case scenario for someone like him, and it's cool. I mean, the Lucha Brothers they're dope. I've been following them since Lucha Underground and stuff like that. I've been interested in them.
Mhm.
It's a dope signing. It's just something about it doesn't feel super fresh to me, but it's cool. Like
Yeah.
I like the Lucha Bros.
I mean, it means we're gonna get more Lucha Bros, which is awesome.
Then the final announcement at the Double or Nothing ticket event was obviously Kenny Omega. It was something everybody saw coming for quite a while. Obviously, if you're listening to Dave Meltzer or anything like that, you knew that Kenny was going to sign with All Elite, but it was still cool to have it officially happen at this event.
Yeah. And the way they did it too was pretty cool. I mean, like everybody knew he was going to be there. You could tell the fans were like, Kenny, Kenny. But doing the Jericho Kenny pull them apart, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah,
How
and
better
it's going to
could
be a
be?
banger match.
God, yeah. Oh, you know they're gonna go all out, and like when Chris Jericho goes all out, it's a good match. And not only like I know Chris Jericho's older, but he can still bring it when he wants to bring it. And I don't think he ever really tries not to. But like on top of that, you have Kenny Omega to where even if Jericho throws out his back in the first 2 minutes, Kenny Omega's carried a blow up doll to a 5-star match. He's not gonna have a problem with Chris Jericho.
Well, and these two guys are both so smart when it comes to wrestling,
Yeah.
and they have now, 3 months to plan this match and get ready for it and come up with cool shit for it. So it's going to be an incredible match no matter what, I feel like.
Yeah, and you know it's not going to be their last. Like I want to see a best of 7 with these fuckers. That would make me so happy.
That would be crazy. Following the Double or Nothing ticket signing event, they started to announce some of the lineup for the Starcast event. They obviously announced the regular All Elite Wrestling talent, which is cool. I mean, the chance to meet those superstars, that's sort of what you would expect at Starcast anyway. So then they announced some special events that I think are pretty interesting that would be dope to see. And they have a screening of a movie called The Joey Ryan Story,
Yeah,
something about Joey Ryan's wrestling career.
that's going to be interesting. I mean I'm guessing they're going to have it on DVD, so I'm going to watch it whenever I can. But I'm kind of interested because Joey Ryan, I've read him talk about his wrestling career, and I've read just articles where he's talking about his journey, and it's already super interesting, and his life is super interesting. Or maybe he's just good at telling his story like Jericho or Foley. But I'm excited for that. It sounds weird, but I think it's going to be really good, as all weird things usually are.
I'm intrigued to hear something about Joey Ryan that I won't absolutely hate from the beginning of it.
You know, like
Everything
Joey?
about Joey Ryan and his dick gimmick
No,
kills me
where's
inside.
the dick
But I'm
gimmick?
curious.
What's behind the dick?
Maybe we'll get the story of it all.
That's what it's going to be called, Beyond the Dick.
And then they have something called the Empty Arena Retrospective, which is going to be Terry Funk and Jerry the King Lawler talking about some Empty Arena match.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds right up your alley.
I've seen that match. I know what match they're talking about. It's really cool. And Jerry, like, he takes like a spike and he drives it into Terry Funk's eye, and then Terry Funk just rides on the ground screaming, and he's like, help me, help me. And there's nobody in the arena to help him. So there's no doctors, and it's fucked up.
I feel like these guys are getting old enough to where they could possibly not actually remember this shit outside of seeing videos of it.
Right?
Like, it brings it all back to them. Like, who knows? But
They have the U-shoot thing where it's basically wrestlers react to, but like they were like the most botched moments, and they didn't even know about Booker T dropping the N-bomb when they showed him that video. People had never seen that, and I was like, what? How?
And then they also announced some other stars that were going to be there, like Hornswoggle, Rob Van Dam, L.A. Park.
Hornswoggle.
The regular old former WWE superstars, but it's cool. The Starcast thing is cool because it brings in a lot of talent that you might not go out of your way to see if there wasn't an abundance of them all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. Like, I would love to go to Star. Who wouldn't? It's awesome. Wasn't it? It's not the same thing, but wasn't it like WrestleCon or something that always did like a big event, or is that during Mania weekend?
They do WrestleCon during Mania weekend, where it's essentially the same thing. It's a bunch of independent guys all together selling merch, doing signings and stuff like that. Obviously, the first Starcast had CM Punk as the major headlining guy. This Starcast 2 has two major headlining guys, one being Ric Flair, the other one being The Undertaker.
That's going to be sick. Just the
That
fact that
is
the Undertaker's going to
crazy.
be there. and he's there like it's not an AEW convention, but it's gonna be treated like that by the fans. I feel like.
It is, and it might as well be.
And so you like it feels like Undertaker is at the AEW convention, which is pretty cool. I know he's not. I know it's not the case, but that's how it is in my head, and I'm not going to be able to shake that.
I feel like eventually the other shoe is gonna drop, and WWE is gonna somehow prevent it from happening. But as it stands, it's awesome, and the Undertaker's a huge name. I don't see there being many other names in the wrestling industry right now that you could bring into Starcast and have be like a surprising thing, like the Undertaker
Yeah.
appearing for something related to the new startup company going against the WWE is
Yeah, I mean,
pretty insane.
no hate to Ric Flair, but I mean, Ric Flair runs the like that's how he makes money nowadays. He goes to conventions all the time, and it's awesome. He's always great and hilarious at conventions. I went to one where he was doing a Q&A, and I got to meet him and everything. And he's super nice and he's great, and he always has the crowd laughing. But he's, you can go to see him at a lot of different anime, nerd, whatever conventions. Undertaker, though, like he's only just recently really doing public stuff.
And it's weird to see. It's like, is this going to become a normal thing for The Undertaker? Is he going to be the main attraction at WrestleCon during WrestleMania because he doesn't have a WrestleMania match?
That's that. I mean, you know,
Could
he's
you
gonna
imagine that fee?
I mean, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, he's gonna want to make money somehow in April. So,
And he's going to be able to charge out the ass
Oh,
for
God,
WrestleMania
yeah.
weekend. Like,
ah,
this is my weekend, brother.
I feel like Undertaker is not going to do stuff like go to another promotion because he's clearly has a deep loyalty to WWE at this point. So I don't see that happening, but like the conventions, like that's just him making money. So he's not gonna not get himself a paycheck when he knows he can. It's just not going to be for another promotion, but a convention, why not? So yeah, you're totally right. He's going to be charging people like crazy. I hope he just starts doing convention circuits, but it's going to be so weird because it's the Undertaker. Like I remember I still will look up pictures just like Googling Undertaker smiling because of how little I've ever seen him smile. You don't see him as like a normal person. Every time I hear him in an interview, it's surreal because it's like, you're not dead. This doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And that's it. For him, it almost makes it easier to do the convention scene. You just show up and take pictures. You don't even got to do a lot of talking because you're the dead man.
Nobody wants him to talk. just
Exactly.
grunt and go rest in peace.
And as far as All Elite goes, the Undertaker being brought in for that convention is as big as it could get for them. And if it's not an All Elite convention, that just means they didn't have to pay for free promotion.
It's so
I mean, at the end of the day.
No, you're absolutely right. And like to your point, like I really do wonder if WWE is going to try to pull some shit, and I hope they don't, because that would be really sad. But
that would be really WWE.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's totally not out of the realm of possibility. I just hope they don't.
Right. And then the Starcast event is the precursor to the Double or Nothing show, which they've already started announcing some matches for. One of the first matches announced was a Team All Elite Wrestling versus a Team Oriental Entertainment Wrestling match, which is going to be SoCal Uncensored versus SEMA, and then 2 partners to be announced. And your thoughts on this match?
I'm interested, especially because, I mean, the Oriental, what's it called again? I'm sorry.
Oriental Entertainment Wrestling.
Oriental Entertainment Wrestling. Like, I'm guessing it's a different promotion, but when WWE was messing around with Hong Kong and bringing in Koho Loon and stuff in NXT for like, their international whatever, it was cool, but it was like, he clearly is really early stages here. Because China's not a wrestling country. It's only just starting to be that. So I'm kind of wondering like, the quality of the wrestlers they're going to be bringing. So, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be good, but...
Right. I think from what I understand, this company has sort of been like sort of SEMA's project where he's gone over and helped train a lot of these guys and stuff like that. So I think they could be all right. I think it's also a lot of like more kung fu flipping things like that. So it'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
Sort of look choreographed type things like that. But I think it'll be really cool. And then obviously Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, they're all older wrestlers. SEMA's older. They've all got enough skill level between the 4 of them to carry the 2 of us to a great match.
I mean,
So
if he
no
can
matter who they bring
wrestle
in,
the Green Arrow, then I think it's gonna be fine.
yeah, that match was a struggle.
It was, and he still. I think it was like.
Props to Daniels.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't the worst celebrity match I've ever seen for sure. It's far from that. Like there have been really, really bad celebrity matches, and that was not one of them. It wasn't
I think it
great.
was the worst serious celebrity match. Going into, because it was All In, because it was a big independent,
Mhm.
like huge sort of like PWG characters type thing. You sort of anticipated this guy to not have the best match on the card, but to have a really great match with no flaws.
Yeah.
There were flaws. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I
Yeah.
think as far as like hyped up celebrity matches go, it's probably one of the worst.
Yeah. I obviously the best one is Floyd.
But that's not like
It's
you can't
undisputed.
discredit it.
It's Floyd. Floyd is the best one. He's
Oh
so
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
How could he not? But oh god, Floyd and AEW, please. I know it's
Yeah.
never gonna happen, but I want to see the $500 million contract for Floyd.
And then another match that we sort of already touched base on, obviously the Young Bucks versus Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix, which is it's like I said, a dope match. It's a main event caliber match going into their big show. So it's probably the best match they could have made with the available independent tag teams.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I like point blank. It's going to be good. There's no way it's going to be bad. It's just going to be an awesome match. It's the one as of right now. Pac and Hangman are cool, but I want to see the Bucks and I want to see the Lucha Bros.
Yeah, I'm actually on the opposite side of that. I'm super interested in this Hangman versus Pac match. I want Hangman Page to be the shit.
Oh,
I
God,
want
yeah.
Hangman Page to be like a top guy.
Taking nothing
I
away
did
from
not believe in Hangman Page for shit a year and a half ago
Right?
when he is introduced to the Bullet Club. I was like, this guy is a geek
He
wannabe
totally
Adam
was.
Cole. Like, this is just their replacement Adam Cole, true value Adam Cole. Like, it's all it was to me. But over time, Adam Page sticking with them. And I think the biggest thing for me was him agreeing, like him sticking with them and not signing with the WWE.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Like,
totally.
a guy like Adam Page who wasn't necessarily in the fold the whole time and things, and he's probably got the smallest name and the most to lose out of everyone for this. He still didn't take the guaranteed NXT contract where he's making triple figures to do NXT shows.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you're right. Like from like a storytelling aspect, I would say the match I'm most invested in is probably any match that Adam Page is working. But like taking nothing away from that, because like I say I'm most interested in the Lucha Bros and the Bucks with that in mind. They're both like they're gonna be awesome matches. Like this is gonna be a kick-ass show. Like, and I hope to God Page goes over Pac, because like exactly what you just said. But if he doesn't, it's cool. I'm down with them having like a best of 3 even. But
right, because they haven't even necessarily announced this as a championship match or anything like that. They both had at the press conference hinted that they both wanted to be the first champion, so it's expected to be a championship match. But I could see, like you said, sort of them doing a best of 3, turning it into a championship series or something like that.
Do they have AEW championship, or are they going to be using the NWA?
I think they're going to introduce their own championships. I don't think they'll be using the NWA championship. I think they'll do they might do cross promotional like championship matches, do NW like they did with the All In show. But I don't know that they've even announced working with Nick Aldis or anything like that at the moment. So.
I wouldn't mind that though at all. I that was one of my favorite things about early TNA is that their title was the NWA title, because I like that belt. Like it's totally just a dumb opinion of mine, but I really like the way the NWA belt just looks. Because
I think it would work, and it has the pre-built prestige. I just think that Billy Corgan just bought the NWA, so I don't think he'll want to.
It's either he's going to be super into it or not into it at all.
Yeah.
And Nick Aldis, on that note, just real quick, when I was watching All In, I was like, is that Magnus? And then I was like, oh shit, that's Magnus. And I love Magnus. Like I love Nick Aldis. I didn't realize he was doing anything anymore. And here he is. And he's a guy that looks like he should have been in WWE, like signed up at least 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Cause he's built like a fucking wall. And he has the body, he has the look, and he's a good wrestler on top of that. So I really hope
that's something that All Elite's gonna need is wrestlers that are built
Mhm.
the right way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of super talented guys,
Yeah.
but if they're all barely hitting 6 foot and barely 200 pounds, it's gonna look a type of way. So having your strong and your built guys is gonna be a
I
necessity.
hope we get Brian Cage. I hope we do.
And then the main event for Double or Nothing, obviously Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
another big match that they've got planned. That match happened at Wrestle Kingdom just a year ago. One of the big selling points, apparently, according to people, for that show was the Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho match.
Yeah.
So announcing it as the main event is smart.
Yeah,
I mean, they
totally.
were going to sell out either way, but this probably added to that.
I mean, you got to put Chris Jericho in the main event, right? Like, you don't have anybody bigger as far as the name goes. I don't think. I mean,
Not at this point,
yeah.
no.
I mean, I guess to like a hardcore wrestling fan, Kenny Omega might be a bigger name, but I mean, at the end of the day, Chris Jericho. Everybody who even has watched wrestling knows who Chris Jericho is.
Yeah, I think Chris Jericho's almost become something of a household name, and throughout
Hmm.
the last couple of years has really solidified his legacy along with that. I don't know that necessarily just his WWE career would have necessarily made his legacy as it is now, but doing the things that he's done, working with WWE, with New Japan, going back to WWE, now with All Elite, it's been sweet to see. And then him versus Omega, obviously the main event match,
Yeah.
or I guess you'd expect. They still haven't announced Cody's match, and they're sort of hyping up his opponent could be some big secret surprise. So
Yeah.
that could potentially be like a semi-main event match, but obviously Omega versus Jericho is the way to go
Yeah.
with that being the main.
Cody's gonna like wrestle Kota Ibushi or something, and then the lights are gonna go out, and it's gonna be Kota Ibushi on the ground. He takes off his head, and it's Goldberg.
Nah, Bushi signed for 2 years to New Japan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he can't be
Yeah.
Goldberg. We need somebody
There,
else.
he was someone. He's like the reverse of the Chuck E. T situation.
That's
He's someone that
yeah.
All Elite was sort of expecting to bring in, and they did not get.
I'm really glad that Chuck Taylor is going to be on a big stage. It makes me really, really happy because if I could think of any indie guy in the world who I've always wanted to see get more than what they deserve, it would be Chuck Taylor.
But once he gets there, he doesn't look right. Like him in
He
New
totally
Japan just
doesn't.
didn't
He
look
totally
right.
doesn't. But
He looked so out of
I
place. I'm
think
just looking at him like,
I think
man.
in New Japan that's harder, but because in All Elite he's gonna be able to do promos, and they're gonna be. I mean, he can do promos in New Japan, but the crowd isn't gonna understand them. But
If I didn't know who he was before he went to New Japan, I would have looked at him like Chase Owens.
yeah, I get that. But I mean, like, I think once you have Chucky like doing promos and doing his shtick with Trent, people are gonna warm up to this guy real quick. I
Maybe.
hope.
He's old now.
He is. How old is
He
he now?
used to be the middle-aged guy. Well, he used to be the young guy who scared little kids. Now he's the old guy who doesn't scare anybody.
He can't even scare the kids. He tries so hard.
No, they just laugh.
There
Like,
is one
okay,
of them
brother.
of that happening. There was a show where he just ran up to a kid and the kid just laughed at him.
With those matches announced, and after watching All In today, what are your expectations for Double or Nothing?
I think my biggest expectation is as awesome as All In looked, like as everything that happened in the ring and in the arena looked as professional as any pay-per-view. It looked great, but there was a lot of the backstage stuff. Like whenever they would cut to videos, it felt like, did you record that with the phone? That's the question popped up in my head because there was some things where just I wish
Mistakes were made.
yeah, I want them to have like a set where they can do interviews. I want it to like have a camera on people. I want to have the mics better for when they're doing those pre-match promos and those videos. But aside from that, I think my expectations are pretty high because I feel like they're just going to go above and beyond. Because, like you said, All In was kind of an experiment, and they didn't have an investor when they were doing All In, like you said. So, like now they have money, so that's definitely going to help every single kink in that show. And because they had that show, they know what to prioritize now. Like their cameras are going to be better, the sound is going to be better. One thing that bugged me was I didn't like it. The crowd wasn't mic'd enough to me, or maybe it was my video, but you could see the crowd losing their shit, but you couldn't hear them losing their shit. And I was like, no. And I hope like they get that, but and I think they will. I think it's going to be really easy, especially in the MGM Grand, to have the audience mic'd way better because that's an arena where UFC is all the time, right?
Yeah, I think as it stands, the card has my attention based off of the three main matches, and then that last match isn't a bad one either. Just off of those matches, they've got my attention for this to even be a better show than previous.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree with you on the production point. I think especially with just the match pacing and things like that.
Hmm.
I think it would be a big issue to run into having to quickly run through your main event again.
Yeah.
So I think they won't run into that problem. And honestly, watching All In with the Okada and Marty Scurll match, I didn't even blame the two of them for that situation
No,
because when you're working a match between a big guy and a small guy, in order to make it believable, you have to go a decent amount of
you
time
do.
and tease things over and
It
over.
was a very
And that's the only
story-driven
way to
match.
make it believable.
Like it was very like yeah, you exactly right. Because like it was I think out of all the matches there, and I wish Marty Scurll could be in AEW. I don't know if he can. Like I don't know if he's contracted somewhere because I would love to see that continue of him. Like I know he wants to be like in the heavyweights in New Japan, but I want to see him just become a real like kind of like the Hangman Page situation of just like I want to see this guy on top. I want to see him just take the
Right.
stage. And I think that match had so much investment in it. Like you want to see Marty Scurll go toe to toe with Okada. Like you want to, because like if it's not a long match, then it's like okay, Okada beat him in 15 minutes. But if it's like a 30-minute match, I don't remember how long it was, but it was like you said, a good while, and it needed to be a good while because it needed to be Marty Scurll going the distance.
Exactly. But when I had actually read the results before I saw the show, and I had heard people on the internet complaining about that situation, and I sort of expected the match to be annoying or lackluster to me. But when I watched it back, it was a really
It
good
was
match,
great.
and I understood the situation there entirely, actually. And then I just felt like they just didn't pace out the entirety of the
Yeah,
show to work out with the main event. So hopefully they can improve on that, and you'd expect them to. Like you said, they have more money now. Their production issues should definitely not be as big of an issue this go round.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's going to be a big thing. Like, because if it doesn't get better, then people are going to be like raising eyebrows. But like, I don't see that happening. I really think that it's just going to be a million times better. It's just going to be the same show with everything corrected. So my expectations are just kind of all in, but where they've learned from all their mistakes, and it's just going to be a way better show. I think like what you said exactly. The pacing. It wasn't even just the main event. Like there were a few matches where you could tell the pacing was like a little off and things were a little weird. And the women's match confused me also, by the way, because they said it was a four corners match, and I was like, oh, cool. I haven't seen a four corners match since like early ROH, and then it was just like a fatal four way, and I was like, okay. I don't know what's happening. Where like they would throw two people out of the ring and then just wrestle with the two people in the ring, and I was really confused that whole. Isn't a four corners match where like two people are in the ring and then two people have to be tagged in to get in the ring?
I have no
It's
idea.
been a minute since I've seen one, but I like those matches, and I was very because like I remember they announced it as a four corners match, and then Don Callis, when the match started, he was like, "Oh, I guess we're going tornado style," and I was like, "What?"
Oh wow.
Okay.
That sounds crazy. I wonder who the announcers are going to be. I think they announced who a couple of them are. I think that was also something I struggled with when listening to it. The announcers were okay,
Hmm.
but by the end of the show, I was very tired of listening to everyone but
I
Excalibur.
would love if it was Excalibur and Jim Ross. That would be
I
awesome.
think that idea is great in theory, but I do not like the idea of Jim Ross being a full time
No,
commentator.
yeah, that's a good point.
After watching All In and then sort of this build up to Double or Nothing, are there any matches that haven't been announced that you'd like to see, or is there anyone from the All In card that you'd like to see on this card?
Damn. I mean, I definitely because Jimmy Havoc. I know they have him right, but he's not announced for anything yet, is he?
Yeah, he's not announced for a match yet. Jimmy Havoc's not.
He's gonna do
Um,
something cool. It's Jimmy Havoc, so it's gonna be awesome whatever he does. And I don't know, man. I like there are people on this roster who like again I have no idea who like Jungle Boy. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but maybe he'll be cool.
he got real popular off of one of Joey Janela's shows, like Lost in New York or something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
He was someone who became real popular. I don't really know a lot about him either. I think that they've been hyping up Cody Rhodes, who his opponent's gonna be.
Hmm.
on their Road to Double or
Oh, yeah, he doesn't.
Nothing shows. I'm excited to see who he's set to
For
face.
sure.
I wouldn't mind just seeing Cody get another NWA title match
Yeah,
or
like the
something like that.
rematch,
That wouldn't be
because
too
I
bad.
think Nick needs a
Yeah.
rematch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Nick might have the title back or something, but I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
confusing. I
I'd
don't
love
think
to see him
Cody's
do
still the
that.
champion, but
Because like
that would be interesting.
I think Cody specifically having the NWA belt is just so cool. Like it's so perfect. Who else? Like there's nobody else who I would rather see that belt on.
Right. And I think if Joey Janela had a shot to go, I think him versus Jimmy Havoc would be a dope
yeah.
match.
How did I not think of that? Oh my god.
That would be nutty if he was able to wrestle and do that match. I think that you could just build off of
They
that,
would be
build and do more
bleeding like
matches.
crazy.
Exactly. It's just a death match. You could be a regular singles match. They'd find a way to make it a death match.
Yeah. Oh my god. Whatever they do with Janela, I just hope I hope he's not just gonna be the crazy spot guy. Like I hope he wins matches too. That's
I think they would be severely underutilizing his talent to just make him a spot guy. I think he's a proven draw,
he is.
man.
He
I mean,
totally is.
as far as a solo guy that can be a draw, those WrestleMania shows sell out instantaneously. Same way All In does, just on a smaller level. I think someone like Joey Janela probably gave them the confidence to do the first All In. In all reality, they saw some young guy do it on the indies on a small level, and if he could do it with his following, imagine their following, which is 10 times greater.
100%. I mean, you're right. Like 100% right. And like just Joey Janela in general, his personality is just like him. Like not the wrestler, not the matches, not the bad boy. Just watching Joey Janela the person he's so fascinating. Like everything about him is so cool, and I want to be Joey Janela all the time. And I would just love if he fought Cody. That would be my dream. I know that's not gonna happen, but if it was Joey Janela versus Cody, I would lose my shit.
That would be dope, especially because they would have the ability to do like the outside stuff with Brandy Rhodes and Penelope Ford.
Oh
too.
yeah, oh they would. I would be down with the mixed tag match also. Now that you mentioned,
dude, Penelope Ford was a standout in that match between him and
Holy
Hangman
shit,
too. She was dope.
That crossbody,
talk about a ride or die.
Like she was holding her ribs the whole time after she hit that crossbody. She's a champ, man.
Yeah, that shit was dope.
Does Brandy suck? I don't know. I haven't seen her wrestle.
She's working on it.
Okay, that's good.
We're not gonna shit on the Chief Brandy officer on the first All Elite Wrestling podcast.
Not. I just mean like
she's working.
Is she? Because like I've been out of the loop, so
paying her dues, bro.
For all I know, she was elite. I don't know.
She's just paying her dues.
And
that about wraps it up. You got anything to add before we close out the show?
No, I don't think so. Just I wish this show would happen like now. I want to see it now.
That's the exciting thing, and that's something we got to look forward to is obviously the Double or Nothing show in May. As it stands right now, we sort of covered the basis of All Elite. And going forward weekly, we'll cover things like Being the Elite, the Road to Double or Nothing, any news and information they have coming out about TV deals, about events that they've got, events that they're promoting. Obviously, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, they've all started showing up at random independent events to keep the All Elite Wrestling name in the news despite not having any official events lined up, which I think is something really smart that they've done as well. So we'll keep updating you guys on information about things like that. We will also keep you updated on our giveaway situation. We are currently roughly at about 40 followers. The second we get to 100 followers, we will select one person to win a Young Bucks shirt. After that, we will do another giveaway every 100 followers that we receive. So keep sharing, retweeting, getting more followers, and every chance you'll have a new opportunity to win a t-shirt. We just want to keep the fan engagement going, keep people talking, keep people engaged in All Elite Wrestling. That way, once the Double or Nothing show comes in May, we have something to be really excited about as a community. And I think that could be the most fun part about All Elite Wrestling. Thank you for listening to us this week. And going forward, we'll catch you guys later.
See ya.
Before I was so rudely interrupted, I was just about to get to the best part. My God! I've been waiting, I don't know, like 2 months or so to say my favorite line. You guys might have heard it. You might know what it is. I'd explain it to you. I would teach you. But unfortunately, I must bid you adieu. So everyone here, please say it with me. Goodbye, mwah, and good night, bang.